Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my passion, which is, agriculture, Caribbean agriculture, and of course, food security. As a company, since the 70s, we've been addressing our food import bill. And I remember in the 80s us doing full page ads, talking about the food import bill and that how it was growing. In those days, it was maybe 250, 300 million, if I remember correctly. Now we're significantly past that at 1.2 billion. Even though we may have had a fluctuation in the exchange rate, I think from 3.87 to the current 7. That means if we were at 250, 300 million, that means we should be at 600 million because of the change of currency. But the fact is we're at 1.2 billion pre-pandemic, which is significant because, of course, it's going to rise even significantly more because of the pandemic and the issues associated with shipping and shortages, and now with the invasion of Ukraine, it will even impact further. I was just this morning talking about the cost of fertilizer, which has risen 500% in the last 3 years. And not many farmers or people understand what is happening. But we used to pay maybe about 15 or 18,000 US for a container of fertilizer. Now it's close to 70, 80,000 US, of which freight alone is $15,000 or $18,000. But yeah, we've been talking about food security for a long time, and the fact that now, unfortunately, we've not addressed the key components that we need to survive. When 9/11 occurred, I specifically went on a campaign to try and make change with the leadership, and I don't care whether it's UNC or PNM. At the end of the day, for me, agriculture, one minister of agriculture said every time you sit down to have a lunch or a snack or a dinner or breakfast, the minister of agriculture impacts you, and the Ministry of Agriculture impacts you. So it's important that we look at it and we try and understand how important agriculture is. Sorry, I have a little eye issue there. We try and understand how the agriculture impacts our food and our food security. 9/11, because of the shortages that occurred, because of all the ports in the US shutting down for about a month after 9/11 occurred, the impact with us 2 months later, because for 1 month entirely, we could not ship fresh produce out of the US. We couldn't ship frozen goods out of the US. And that impacted us immediately. And I know a lot of people may have forgotten that. And I started to talk about, if a world war came, if other things came that would impact our food security, how would it affect us? And we're once again living in it. The issue for me has always been a leadership issue, unfortunately, and I'm looking at it as an overall system. The only minister we had of agriculture that lasted more than 4 years was the previous minister of agriculture in the PNM government from 2015 to 2020. He has now been replaced and moved on. But that was the longest serving minister of agriculture we've ever had. And this is going back to the 80s when the NAR won, and I was joined the company a year before that. So since then, and I looked at it, Lincoln Myers became our first Minister of Agriculture. Then there was a cabinet reshuffle 2 years later, and Brinsley Samaru, I think, became Minister of Agriculture. Then the NAR lost, the PNM came in, and I think it was John Rahal that became Minister of Agriculture. And then 2.5 years later, there was another cabinet reshuffle, and a new minister came in. And this has been ongoing and ongoing. As recently as 2010, Vasant Bharat, and then 2012, 2013, he's moved on and a new minister comes in. What does that mean? And it means, and it's not only for agriculture, but in Trinidad and Tobago, every time there's a cabinet reshuffle, the new minister wants to stamp his foot or give his name to whatever is happening. So whatever the previous minister did may not be what the new minister wants to do. And of course, I understand it from a political point of view. But what does that do? That has a significant impact on anything to do with agriculture. So if, let's say, Brinsley Samaru is going to address corn, and 2 years later, a new government comes in and a new minister comes in, whatever that was not what we're going to do, and now we're going to look at rice. And for the next 2.5 years, we look at rice, and then after that, the next minister comes in and it's no longer rice, it's citrus, or it's sugar, or it's, and that has been the story of Trinidad's agriculture, unfortunately. And it's the same for the Caribbean. Now, I will say that now Jamaica, fortunately, over the last decade to 12 years, has had significant change because of leadership and because they had 2 successive governments that was very interested in carrying agriculture forward. So, and I will use Jamaica as an example. 5-6 years ago, Jamaica was a net importer of potatoes. Last year, Jamaica exported a container of potatoes or 2 to Cayman Islands. They've started, and that's of course working with us. We introduced new varieties, increased yields and everything like that. They're now working on the onions. So we expect in 2 years' time for them to become an exporter of onions. And that's what we've been reaping and talking about for the last 20 or 30 years, maybe even more. We're suggesting to any government that they choose 5 crops, one of which is a meat, a protein. So whether it be chicken or a fruit like an orange or a lime, I mean, we know the prices of lime in Trinidad. This has been the same problem for 10 years. A lime at $5 for 10 years, it has not changed. Why is that? And we'll get to that. And then maybe 3 vegetables that we import, and let's address it. Come up with a 5-year plan. It's easier for the large food import companies, the Price Marts, the Hardcos, the Bridons, the ADMs, the Bunny Imports, all of these food import companies. It's easier for him to deal with one supplier out of California who belongs to a co-op of 60, 70 farmers who can supply him, and that's just one crop, with a container of broccoli every week, or a container of lettuce every week, or a container of Brussels sprouts every week, or whatever it is that they think. Again, the US is a significant more improved market because of their futures market. Everybody knows what the future of pork is going to be next year. Everybody knows what the future of milk is going to be. Unfortunately, as a small island state, it's difficult. But we can't get around that, and we can't start to get involved in it. I'd be happy if they even cut 10%. I mean, 10% for me in 3 years' time, 4 years' time is fantastic, because each island, the food import bill is getting bigger and bigger. And again, it's because it's easier for a man to buy a container of mixed product out of California or Florida and ship it than to deal with 40 or 50 farmers. And we have to go back in history as to why is this a problem. And that goes back to a long time ago when peppers were being bought to make pepper sauce. And if one of the processing companies signed a contract for $5 a pound, and when 3 months later the farmer turned up at $5 a pound, but it was $3 in the market, the processing company would say, well, no, I'm not paying you $5, I'm paying you $3 because I could get it at $3. But it went the other way too, that if the price was $8 on the market, the processing company was calling the farmer saying, where my $5, where my $5? Because, so, and that's where I think NAMDEFCO has to come in, and what their focus has to be. Their focus has to be creating the linkages between the food processors and the farmers and ensuring that those contracts are there too. Because contract breaking is very common in Trinidad and Tobago among the farming and vice versa. So anyway, coming back to the Caribbean Initiative. We've been talking about this for well over 30 years. The Caribbean as a community because of the different lands and different, Dominica is a very hilly island, where Jamaica is a much flat island. Guyana has huge, and Suriname has huge land expanse. So what should we be doing? We've been saying for years, I would rather give my US dollars to Suriname or Guyana because they're a Caribbean company or Caribbean partner, rather than give it to somebody in Thailand or somebody in China. Just me. That's how I am. I'm a Caribbean guy, I've been all over. We have offices in the Caribbean, French throughout the Caribbean. We need to look at it as a Caribbean thing. And this is something not new. I may not have been the first person to say it, but I've been preaching it for the last 30 years. We need to realize, based on land size, land soil capabilities, know-how, the history of the island, the history of its farmers, everything like that, and then set up a plan. So, for example, Grenada, we already know, is nutmeg. So Trinidad should not grow nutmeg because they are experts in nutmeg. We can grow a little bit because we want to ensure if something happens with Grenada or if something occurs, we have some supply to carry us 2-3 months, right? But again, and I'm not saying to the food importers that we're going to replace 100%. Again, it's going to be extremely difficult because of climate, weather, conditions that a crop needs to support, to alleviate 100%. I'm saying that let's set objectives to whether it be 80%, whether it be 50%, whether it be 20%. Let's at least start to look at it. Guyana, because of their expanse, should be looking at the commodity items, corn, if they can grow soybeans. They're already growing soybeans. We've been growing with our customers there. One particular customer who's growing hundreds of acres of soybeans for seed to export back up to the US for them to sell as seed in the US market. So we can grow soybeans, we can grow corn. There are other wheats that we can grow, barley, the sorghum. There are new varieties coming out. I'm going to a conference next month to learn about asparagus being grown in Florida. I'm going to learn about bamboo as a crop for flooring now. So, all of this is what we should be looking at in the Caribbean. Coming back to the Caribbean, sorry. The islands are better at root crops than we are. Our land is small here. Yes, we need to grow some sweet potato and things like that, but what should Trinidad be growing? Trinidad should be using its low energy costs to grow things like greenhouse tomatoes, hydroponic, aquaponics, hydroponics to some degree. We should be looking at it. We should be looking at our high-end varieties that we can grow here. Again, Jamaica has hills. Jamaica has hills with cool temperatures, so they should be looking at the cold crops, the things like strawberries and berries that they can grow in the hills. Of course, again, they have large expanse of land, so papayas can be grown all over. I always give the story of pawpaw as a crop. We had one entrepreneur many years ago, and he died, and I think the technology died with him. That he was taking a green pawpaw, cutting it up into cubes, throwing it in a can, and putting syrup and apple flavor in it, and using it to sell it to bakeries. And that apple pie filling tasted, smelled, everything like an apple pie in it. And he was making a lot of money on it. Okay, we cannot compete against subsidized corn coming out of the US. Now, the US will say their corn is not subsidized directly, but they do have other ways and means of giving our farmer back some credits and some money and some funds and some grants that will bring the cost of his corn down. It's extremely difficult, but that's not saying that we shouldn't grow corn. I think if you put 100,000 acres of corn in Guyana, or 50,000 acres of corn in Guyana, and 50,000 acres of corn in Suriname, and 20,000 acres of corn in Jamaica that are all mechanized and reaped mechanized, we can compete because our freight is going to be cheaper, our cost of doing business is going to be cheaper because we don't have to go through intermediate banking. Our cost of finances is going to be lower. The governments can make funds available to these farmers based on on yields and based on quality, etc., that lower or subsidize. I would rather pay a farmer a subsidy and ensure that we have food security than pay a subsidy to a U.S. farmer. Because we're importing it, and we have to understand the politics of food. The U.S. know it. The politics of food is very, very strong. And until the governments of the Caribbean realize that a country that cannot feed itself will never prosper, it's important for us to ensure that we recognize that food security is critical. When you have money flowing, it's easy to import, right? When things get tough, it shows you. Unfortunately, it's been a cycle, and 3 years later we get out of it and everybody forgets, right? But again, this is where I say leadership comes in. Somebody with some cojones to make some decisions and go against big business. It's also big business because the value of onions, potatoes, carrots, peanuts, garlic imported into Trinidad runs into the millions of US dollars. Millions. Not 1 million, 2 million, like 40 million, 50 million. And you understand the value of it. I think we can compete, but it has to be fully mechanized. Brazil is a huge producer of cassava flour. The funny story is that at one point in time, I am aware of a flour machine brought into Trinidad, and it sat down in a warehouse for 4 years by an organization called TABA that was funded by the government, and the machine sat down in the warehouse for 3 or 4 years, and nothing was ever done. When I was involved in TABA, we actually wanted to carry the cassava bread to another level, but unfortunately we had feed pullback from our farmers because they couldn't understand the growth that we were thinking about. So it's a whole education process too. Educating the farmers, educating the consumers, educating the importers, how important food security is to us. So coming back to the Caribbean, I don't think we can grow 100% of what we need, but I'd be very happy if 10 years from now, we're growing 25, 30, 50% of our imports. It means that $500 million is no longer being sent away. We can actually throw that back in. If we were to produce more than enough amount of tomatoes that we need, it means we no longer have to import tomatoes for ketchup, the paste. It means we no longer have to import tomatoes to make anything, right? Just using tomatoes and tomato paste and ketchup. The amount of money that we spend on importing tomato paste from the US and Italy and Argentina and all other places and China to make tomato ketchup is unbelievable. It's happening now. I think when you look at broccoli, for example, at $30 a pound, that they're being sold to $30 a head. I don't think the typical person living in a low-income area is going to buy broccoli. But broccoli is a very high source of a lot of vitamins that kids need. And when you go on a baby food in the US, you have broccoli, peas, and carrots in a baby food. If we had broccoli growing and had access of it, it will lead to downstream industries, which leads to exports. The biggest countries in the world became rich because of agriculture. Look at Brazil. I mean, yes, Brazil is going through economic issues, as all other countries are. Look at Argentina and their foods. And look at Costa Rica, very close to us. Look at Mexico. Mexico is now joined NAFTA, not because of the millions of people living in Mexico. They joined NAFTA, and the USA saw them as a trade partner because of their ability to produce at low cost and get it across and feed the US and their close proximity. And let me tell you, when you look at Mexico from an agriculture point of view, and I look at Cuba, and I just use this as an example. Cuba is the same size as Florida. Florida agriculture contributed, just Florida alone, contributed $8 billion US dollars agriculture to the GDP of Florida. In Cuba, because they're not focusing on agriculture, if it is $500 million, that's a lot. I don't even think it's as, maybe before Trump, it was maybe 800 million. Now I think it's about $500 million, $500 million. That's all the agriculture is being contributed. When we drive around, rather than go up, our housing wants to go wide. We have to stop that. We have to, class 1 lands have to be left for agriculture. You can't grow a high yielding crop like tomato on Caroni clay. You can't. And of course, it is cheaper to grow in the ground than it is to grow in aquaponics or hydroponics. Right?
Or greenhouse.
Or greenhouses. It's cheaper. So you've got to grow in your land first what you can grow, and then what you can't grow, you can look at hydroponics and greenhouses and everything like that. Right? Now I know everybody's talking about the newest thing now is hydroponics and aquaponics and controlled environments, and that it can work in Trinidad because of our cheap agriculture, our cheap electricity. But you can't do that in Jamaica or Barbados, where the cost of electricity is significant, right? You can't set out I know a couple of people who bought I know a couple of people who bought in these freight farms, a container that grows lettuce and everything else. At least 2 or 3 of them abandoned now because it's just not economical, and it cannot compete against a farmer planting in the ground, because you have to have air conditions running 24/7. You have to have water running 24/7. You have to have somebody around 24/7, because if electricity goes or a pump break or something and nobody's there, your crop is gone overnight. So it's we've got to recognize that yes, technology has to play a part, but what works in Canada, where the ground is frozen or hard 6 or 8 months a year, may not work in Trinidad. And until you recognize that, then we have to look at what can we do in Trinidad that can upgrade our agriculture. Look, bamboo, that's a crop that we never even thought about as a cash crop. But the amount of bamboo flooring coming out of China now, why can't we grow it as a crop? Bamboo is all over Trinidad. So why can't we grow it as a crop? In the flooding areas where it floods, bamboo love water and it don't affect the bamboo. So let's look at the flooded areas and grow bamboo, cut the bamboo, process it, and whether we make flooring here or we ship it away as flooring base, then that's a different story. We create an export industry. Farmers will earn US dollars now. So I'm just using that as an example, right? Because it's the newest thing that we as a company is thinking about. We're seeing all our farmers losing their shirts in the flooded areas. What can we grow in those areas that will make them money? That is a quick 1-year crop that can make them some money every year. And once you start 1 year, you start reaping, it's continuous for the next 40 years. I don't understand the politics involved, because clearly it's politics involved as to who gets the land and how you get in the land and why you give my cousin this and this and that. And we came up with a simple solution maybe 12, 13, 15 years ago. Let's set up agriculture parks, right? You have young graduates coming out of ECIAF or UTT and Ministry of Agriculture. You want to make agriculture sexy again, which is something that I keep saying for the last 10 years. Why don't we take some state lands, and I'm coming back to the limes, for example. If we had 100 acres of limes, which is what Trinidad requires to be self-sufficient in fresh limes, and if we put 500 acres of limes, and we chopped it up into 5-acre blocks, or we took lime trees and we gave it to every community in Trinidad 1 lime tree. So not every lime community. And I've said this many years ago. For example, Blue Basin used to be an old lemon estate. Let's go back and give homeowners 1 lemon tree each. We'll set up the community center, like how Beetham does the bottles. We'll set up Blue Basin Community Center to process lemons. We'll set up Marval to do guavas. We'll set up St. Anne's to do grapefruit. We'll set up Cascade to do oranges. Supplemented by 500 acres run by a mega farm or a company in conjunction with the government. Government own the land, you can't put up housing, you have to plant 500 acres of this crop. Then you go down smaller. We're giving you 5-acre blocks, entrepreneurs. We're leasing out these 5-acre blocks. We've planted them, established them. We've put drip irrigation down. You now need to maintain it, reap it, and sell it. That's an investment. right? That's an investment, it's a cost, but you get it back in the rental down the road. But what is the bigger picture on it is that we create entrepreneurs. You could give them, if they have a 5-acre plot, you could leave a half acre, 1 acre to produce cash crops for them to get sustain money right away. So they don't have to become dependent on the state or whatever like that. Imagine if we need 100 acres of limes to supply the fresh water, the fresh lime industry a year, but we plant 500. What are we going to do with those limes? All those little green and yellow bottles that you see imported from the States, that's lime and lemon. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do lemon pies? Why can't we do lemon concentrate and ship it to make juices in the other countries? Why can't we make lemon filling for pies? Why can't we do all of that? I'm just using limes. I'm not talking about pawpaw, grapefruit, and every other thing, pomerac, cashews, anything like that. Now, of course, critical to that, and we've always said that, is water. You have water in the industrial parks and being dumped into the ocean because they use the cooling towers. What they did in Jamaica is they took that water, captured it, and they now have irrigation tunnels and irrigation things running throughout Jamaica that farmers pay. And it's just like Wassa. It's a metered thing. They come and they pay significantly less, but they get water which is not potable water. It's industrial water, good enough agriculture, not contaminated, and we pay for it. So you set up an irrigation system, and the National Irrigation System, I think it's called in Jamaica, is a profitable company. They make money by supplying waters to farmers. And that's how it is. It's metered. You don't pay a bill, we come and lock you off. You pay a bill, we turn it back on. We catch you stealing water, we know exactly where the water, how much water is going out. We go find it, and we charge you. Honestly do hope so. It would be really nice. I'm getting up in age, and retirement is coming up soon. I've been working in agriculture for 40 years plus, because every summer of my young life as a preteen, I worked in this company. I worked in agriculture. So it would really, really be nice. But again, the reality is it boils down to leadership. It boils down to leadership. Who is put as chair of that committee will be the key to the success of this throughout the Caribbean. Who is put as the CEO of that company set up to establish it, because that's the only way I would do it. I wouldn't allow government to run it. It has to be a company with set mandates and set targets and set everything. And that's what I would do initially to get and ensure it's done. Of course, each country is going to battle for what they want and the politics involved there. But at the end of the day, I think once a common consensus is that we want to feed the Caribbean community, and together we can do it. Guyana, with its newfound wealth, cannot grow everything for the Caribbean. It can't. It just can't, right? They don't have enough arable land. They have a lot of land, but they don't have enough arable land. Same thing with Suriname. Same thing with Jamaica. But combined, we can. Dominican Republic is the best island in the Caribbean when it comes to agriculture. When you go to Dominican Republic, you understand how much money is involved in agriculture and how much exports. Everything, 90% of what Dominican Republic grows, it exports. I mean, organic bananas is one of their #1 crops, straight into Europe. And that is millions. And I'm not talking again 1 and 2. I'm talking 200, 300, 500 million dollars worth of exports in organic thing that they're growing. And again, it's not a large amount of acreages. Maybe 40,000 acres, 50,000 acres, if it's that. I don't know exactly. But, we need to work the max back. And that's what I'd say. If we're importing 1 container of broccoli a week is needed in Trinidad, let's say. That's 52 containers we need. That equates per month, knowing our broccoli crop takes 3 months, that means we need X amount of acres to produce X amount of broccoli per month. But let's double it or triple it so that we can produce downstream industries. We may not want to double it and triple it immediately, but that's why I'm saying our 3 to 5 year plan. So you start first year, 10% import reduction. Second year, 20%. Third year, 50%. Fourth year, 75%. Fifth year, 150%. We still have the imports if you want it, but we're now canning and we're producing. Look at pineapples. Pineapple farmers have come a long way in Trinidad. And that's the first crop, if I was the minister, I would start that. Because we're still importing pineapples to be put into cans. And 90% of the time it's imported in cans or in 55-gallon drums and just repackaged there into smaller cans. We can look at pineapples as a prime example to get processing done, and where we can now have it in cans, have it pulped, have it in juice, have it in chips, have it with other mixed fruit cocktails. I grew up on those canned fruit cocktails with pineapple, peaches, cherries inside of it. Why can't we do it locally with local flavors and export that all over the world? A man in Canada with Caribbean roots would love to get a can of mango, pineapple, guava and watermelon mixed up in it. I'm just, coming back is there's labor. You can't, unless we can get UE to develop a machine to mechanize and pick ripe pepper, because remember the pepper tree has a 6-month lifespan, sometimes more. So you have to pick peppers every day or every 2 days or every 3 days, and you have to pick the ripe ones to get the heat. You can't pick it green, you want to pick it ripe sometimes. So the issue is labor. We can't get labor in Trinidad. The Venezuelans and other immigrants have, and throughout the world, wherever immigrants are, that's the work that most immigrants do. If you go to USA, for example, a lot of Haitians and Mexicans are the landscapers and the restaurant workers. If you go to the UK, a lot of the Polish people are the construction people. In Trinidad, you go to any restaurant now or any farm, and a lot of the farmers are workers and restaurant waiters and things like that are the Venezuelans and other immigrants. And I'm happy for that, because immigrants build a country. I have no problems, me personally, with immigrants. But what I'm saying is we need more, and we need to have it structured. I'm not saying illegal, but why is it that our Trinidadian people and our Jamaican people leave here and go and pick apples in Canada and then come back home? What is the reason? Why can't we offer that to other people? Now, of course, I know the politics get involved, because then one party wants to bring in people from a certain country and another party wants to bring in people from another country. Why not everywhere, right? This is our migrant workers in policy. We don't mind if they come from El Salvador. We don't mind if they come from Haiti. We don't mind if they come from Cuba. We don't mind if they come from Belize. We don't mind if they come from England. We don't care. This is our policy. You have to provide housing. This is the minimum wage. This is the monthly checks. We will check and make sure they're not being treated as slaves, etc. And let's focus on agriculture. The thing is not about which country the workers coming from, which is the politics involved in the agriculture, because they don't want to say, oh, you supporting this side and oh, you supporting that side. That's it. Let's just open it up. This is our migrant policy for workers. This time of year, any farmer can bring it in. I just met a man yesterday who has a cocoa estate. He has 12 acres. He's a retired businessman. His 2 sons are running his business. He enjoys going to the cocoa estate. And he says, Joe, I'm not making no money, but I'm spending money on my farm because I want to improve the quality of my cocoa. But the problem is, I can't get anybody to work. Nobody wants to go and climb a hill and brush cut and spray, and nobody wants to do it. No Trinidadian wants to do it anymore. So recognize that as your first problem, and let's allow these guys, under our rules and regulations, to bring whoever they want in. And we're going to inspect your property once every 6 months. We're going to send a doctor from the Ministry of Health out to make sure everybody is okay and you're doing well. And the farmer, you're paying for these services, right? Because you have to pay for it. You want cheap labor? This is what it's going to cost you. This is the quality of standard of living. You can't put them in a plywood box. Have to be a brick house with flowing shower and a flushing toilet. And we come into the thing. The salary has to be enough that they can live, right? They don't become a burden on the state. Mm-hmm. So that's the first issue we have to address to start improving agriculture. What happened with the Carney 2-acre plots that Carney workers were supposed to get into agriculture? And thousands of leases approved, and what is happening with the land? Abandoned, a house, a warehouse, a car repair, mechanic shop, nothing to do with agriculture. My concern is, yes, it's nice. Who is going to police it? Who is going to police it? When you look at Wallerfield, same thing. Right? Wallerfield was supposed to be the same thing for cows, for dairy and everything like that. Where are we? Where are we? Wallerfield is abandoned, pretty much. All the farmers on their own. Yeah, there are a couple successful farmers, but people not really doing anything with it. We're still importing milk powder in the millions of dollars. Well, at this point in time, it's extremely difficult to keep prices even stable, where they were in 2020. As I was just explaining, we were paying a container of product from China. We were paying about $3,500 US a container. 2 months ago, we were paying $24,500 US for the same container. So that container has gone up 7-8 times, right? That's just the freight part of it. When you look at China and who is a main supplier of a lot of raw materials or agriculture chemicals in the world, so they may supply our plant in Jamaica with raw materials, or they may supply India or Brazil with raw materials that we then process and add value and make the final product. The closure of factories because of COVID, the environmental closures that the government did in 2022 because of greenhouse issues and the world pressure being put on China. The war in Ukraine now, the shortages, fertilizer alone out of Ukraine, wheat out of Ukraine. Ukraine is a very large supplier of fertilizer, a lot of urea. We were paying, as I said earlier, $15,000 US, $18,000 US for a container. Now that is $70,000. We have limited control of how we control it, because the only product that we manufacture in Trinidad that is used in agriculture is urea. And limited amounts of that urea is sold in Trinidad and actually used in agriculture, because it's one in nitrogen, urea is nitrogen, of 20 different products needed for things. I don't think it's going to get better. I honestly don't think so. We're still seeing prices rising with every shipment. I can assure you, and I'm very much committed to this. This is a very competitive market. Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana, we are very competitive. There are a lot of big players in this market. It's a very aggressive. There's no collusion as in other institutions. There's no, let's say there's a bankers association or insurance association. There is no agriculture input association. So I don't meet with my competitors. I don't, tell them what my stories are and cry. And this is a very competitive market. I'm not insinuating anything at all. But I don't see prices coming down this year. But I can assure you that the minute we start to get prices dropping, we will pass that on. I always say, if a farmer can't make money, I won't make money. Because if it costs a farmer, if a farmer doesn't buy my product, I can't make money. So I have to make it attractive to my farmers to buy the product. Now, a bag of fertilizer that was selling for $150 2 years ago is now $300, $400, $500. So how is a farmer going to survive? We've been focusing a lot on biostimulants, which are a lot cheaper. One, two, their prices have not increased significantly over the last 2 years. So we've been working with the farmers to try and adapt to the current conditions. I am aware. It's something that has been, farmers have been complaining about 50 years. I can assure them, if they go, for example, and check out the price of a product that we sell here in Trinidad against a price in the States, they'll see that we're significantly more competitive. If they go and check it out against Guyana or Suriname or Jamaica, they'll see that Trinidad has some of the best farmers in the Caribbean. And I say that openly because we are far more progressive than a lot of other people. We have the newest technology available in Trinidad as compared to some of the islands. If you go to South Africa, or any other places, you will see that we're competitive. So check it out. Go online and check it out. We're competitive. Of course, the duties on herbicides that the Ministry of Agriculture puts on also affects the farmers. The duties that the red tape at the ports also affects us, not significantly, but it does. As my mom always says, every bit of dirt builds a dam, and every cent added on, adds $1 to the process. So, truckage from Point Pleasant to here, it's going up because the price of gas has gone up. So the truck drivers raised it. So it continues. I tell you that I'm also don't want to sound like an alarmist, but for me it all depends on the Ukraine-Russian war, because Ukraine is a key part of agriculture in the world. Wheat and, as I said, urea. Russia is also a key supplier. And if the trade embargoes put onto those two countries continues way into 2023 and beyond, then yes, we could have some long-term effects. I'm hoping that by Christmas, the world powers would be able to solve the issues in Ukraine and Russia. I think once that happens, I think world agriculture, Brazil is a key part of agriculture in the world. Central America and Latin America is a key part of it. North America is a key part of it. Europe is a key part of it. The key issue there is the supply chain. And I don't see the supply chain it will drive prices up, but I don't think it will create famine, because farmers are very resilient. They will go out and plant. And I think the first world countries will have to, if they need to, subsidize the world agriculture to bring, our staples down. The corns, the wheats, the key crops that we will have to grow. So I think first world countries will react to prevent it. Some third world countries may end up in some famine. African countries, poverty may become a little bit worse in certain countries, like in Trinidad. But I don't see us reaching a point. One of the things we saw because of the pandemic was a huge resurgence of backyard gardening. So I saw upsurge in agriculture at the beginning. It's sort of tapered down now, but we will all rise to the occasion. Businessmen in Trinidad, will stock a little bit more, and we will grow a little bit better and smarter. But it might be the switch that we need to kick ourselves to get agriculture going. And I'm hoping that the meeting coming up, the powers that be and the leaders that be recognize that and put a good team together to get Caribbean agriculture together.